So I didn't really have a choice, but I upgraded to the SRAM X01 Eagle rear derailleur, and it's pretty sweet. Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I just want to first say thank you to everybody who's been hitting the like, leaving comments so that I can interact with you, and hitting subscribe on the channel. We just passed 350 subscribers, so still really exciting to see the channel grow. So in my last video, I showed you guys how I broke my rear derailleur. Now, when I was putting together the video, I could actually hear what sounded like a spring popping out of the rear derailleur. And unfortunately, I rode off, didn't realize that. Otherwise, maybe could have recovered that part and put the derailleur back together. But that's okay, I've got this new derailleur now. Now, the tough thing about replacing that rear derailleur is that there's a huge parts shortage on bike parts this year. Now, the SRAM SX Eagle component set is actually an entry-level set meant for OEM manufacturers. And sure enough, it wasn't in stock. Now, luckily with the SRAM Eagle components, you're actually able to have a little bit of interoperability there, so I was able to consider an upgrade. But unfortunately, the next model up was not available. The next model up from that was not available, so I've ended up with a SRAM Eagle X01 rear derailleur, but it was in stock at the time, and it was compatible with the rest of the SRAM group set that I have on there. So the SRAM Eagle drivetrain looks like this. There is the SX series, the NX, the GX, the X01, and then they have the XX1, as well as having an Axis lineup for the X01 and the XX1 lineup, which are the electronic wireless ones. Now, to give you an idea of the class of bike that these component sets are packaged into, I looked into some of the more popular bike brands out there to see what components come on their different series of bikes. Now, keep in mind, there's a wide range of prices depending on if it's an aluminum frame or a carbon frame. So for the SRAM SX lineup, you'll find it equipped on something like a Trek Roscoe 7. That is about $1249 US. And you'll also find it on a Norco Fluid SF3, which is also an aluminum frame, full suspension, and that's about $2,000 Canadian. For the SRAM NX lineup, you'll find that on a Trek Roscoe 8, that's about an $1,800 US bike. And you'll also find it on something like a Trek/7, that's $3,500 US, and that's full suspension, but still aluminum frame. And you'll also find it on the Santa Cruz Mega Tower R spec, and that's about $6,000 Canadian, and that's a carbon frame bike, so there's a big difference in cost just from that, and just because it's Santa Cruz as well. Now, for the SRAM GX lineup, you'll actually find that on a lot of bikes. That seems like a mid-range sweet spot for SRAM and for bikes. So you'll see that on something like a Santa Cruz Mega Tower S spec, and that's about $7,200 Canadian. You'll see this on a Norco Sight A1, so aluminum frame, and that's about a $6,000 Canadian bike. And you'll also see this on a Norco Sight C2, so this is a carbon bike, and that's about a $7,000 Canadian bike. And you'll also see this on a Trek Remedy 8, and this is about a $5,000 Canadian bike. Now, for the SRAM X01 series, I had to really go looking for the bikes that had that equipped on it. So there's a Santa Cruz Mega Tower carbon bike, X01 spec, and that's about a $10,000 Canadian bike. And then you'll also see this on a Norco Sight C1, also a carbon bike, that's about a $9,000 Canadian bike. Now, I really had to go looking for something with a SRAM XX1 equipped on there, and I found the Rocky Mountain Instinct. Now, this is a $13,500 Canadian bike, really well equipped to have something like the XX1 on there. So what makes the difference when it comes to these different derailleurs? I was wondering that myself, so I went out and did a little bit of research. The biggest difference is going to be the materials used in the product, and that's going to affect the weight and the durability of the group set. Now, what you're gonna find is that manufacturers are packaging the group sets accordingly with the class of bike. That's going to make sure that the bike has a certain fit, finish, and feel to it depending on the price that you've paid for it. So on something like a more higher end carbon bike, you will find things like the X01 group set on there, and on more of the entry level bikes, you're gonna find the SRAM SX and NX group sets on there. And what I noted was that you're gonna find in the mid-range of bikes, there's going to be a lot of SRAM GX group sets out there. But it's all going to balance out as far as just making sure everything fits with the right type of bike along with things like the brakes and the wheels. So in the end, I was able to get my rear derailleur replaced pretty quickly, albeit I have a pretty overkill upgrade with the SRAM X01. However, when I do eventually upgrade my bike, I'll be able to bring my X01 over to that, as long as that bike has a SRAM group set on there, and it'll still be an upgrade for that bike. And after all that, do I feel a difference with having this upgraded rear derailleur on there? I can honestly say that I actually do feel like it's a better feeling rear derailleur on there. It feels strong and the shifting is snappy. And I'm really happy that I was able to get my bike back fairly quickly and back up and running on the trails and able to produce more videos. So be sure to hit like, leave a comment, and hit subscribe if you want to see more videos. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next one.